Hi, welcome to the BariNation podcast, where we support the bariatric community with humor, humility, and honesty. I'm April.
I'm Jason.
I'm Natalie. Welcome to 2024. Oh, it's here. It's happening. There's no avoiding it. I'm certainly ready to welcome in the new year, and I know the both of you are as well.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Right? 2023 was not what we expected. And all we can do is kind of expect the same out of 2024. But how we're going into this year is just anticipating things are not going to go the way that we want them to go. But what we can do is focus on the things that are within our control. And one of the things that is within our control is living our bariatric pillars of success. This question has come up many times in our community. We often talk about the pillars, living the pillars, right? Be the pillars, focus on the pillars. What the heck are the pillars? So today we have a definitive answer and description for you all, because we are going to not only share what our bariatric pillars of success are, but we're going to talk about why they're important, the role that they serve in our life, how we kind of arrived at these pillars, and give a little sneak peek into how we live these pillars every day. And that really will be a sneak peek. So we've got some awesome questions that have come in from our BariNation support community members. And one of the biggest questions that people kind of asked again and again was they wanted to know how we live the pillars every day in our life. So in the bonus episode, which will be available for our Patreon supporters and our community members, we are really going to dive into that. So if you're curious to see how we live our pillars, even on the days that we don't want a bariatric anymore, become a Patreon supporter or join the BariNation membership community, and you get access to that bonus episode and a ton of other bonus episodes and content. And we also invite our Patreon supporters to join us for our community-only struggle bus twice a month. So if you like to interact with us, if you want to get to know us a little bit more, and if you really want to connect on a deeper level with the community, absolutely, absolutely join. So you can support the podcast by going to barinationpodcast.com. And for $5 a month, you can help produce this podcast, or head to barination.mn.co to become a member. Look at that. It's pretty rad. All right, friends. Before we dive in, maybe let's just start by this. And this is a surprise question. Didn't know I was going to ask it.
Full
You know,
surprises.
I love doing this. When you think about our bariatric pillars of success, what is the word or the feeling that comes to mind when you think about the pillars?
It's calming for me because it kind of gives you like a template almost to kind of live by for your bariatric journey so that you really, it's kind of just like a navigational beacon that you can kind of lean on to help you get through some of the times that, like we talk about, when life becomes life and, this shit starts whooping us because it happens a lot. Like we get smacked around quite a bit. So for me, it's kind of calming for me.
Awesome.
I would have to agree. I think the word that comes to mind for me is anchor. We talk a lot about anchoring here in Barry Nation. April and I are very Jason, if you are watching the podcast on YouTube, he is wearing his anchor. We love anchors here, but I feel like the bariatric pillars really are like my way of, yeah, during minus, I promise I have it. It was gifted to us by a very special person, and if she is watching, I do have it. It is here amongst the chaos. Um, anyway, I think that the bariatric pillars really anchor me when I'm feeling really chaotic and like my life is not going to plan. Those pillars are ones that I can lean on or throw the anchor, so to speak, to kind of just have me focus on what I need to do to be a bariatric patient.
Yep. I think my word would be very similar to both of yours. Mine tethers me to the reality of my bariatric life and really just life. I mean, things spiral out of control, and it's very easy for me to go all or nothing and say, everything's out of control. I can't do anything at all. This is just insane, right? It becomes like an excuse for me not to do the things that I want or need to do. So the pillars really ground me in reality, because even when life is crazy, I can go move my body. Even when life is crazy, I can drink my water. I can take my vitamins. I can start with protein. I can chew slow, right? So those pillars are very tethering when life just feels absolutely out of control. So if you are listening or watching to this podcast and you are pre-op, this is going to be a phenomenal kind of sneak peek into things that are really meaningful in your life after bariatric surgery. And if you're post-op, hopefully this conversation will help you just kind of lower the temperature. We know how much stuff there is to do after surgery. It can feel overwhelming, unmanageable, just like, oh my God, I can't do this. And that's really kind of where the pillars came from, is this fear of not being able to do it all. So really, this conversation is just offering all of us a different way to think about the things that we need to do to be a bariatric patient. I'm not even going to say a good bariatric patient, because there's no such thing as a bad bariatric patient. If you are trying your best, if you're doing it, you are living that bariatric life. But yeah, consider these pillars, guardrails or markers or anchors, or that comfort, that structure, that navigation, that grounding tool that you can use as you navigate your bariatric life. All right.
It's kind of funny that you mentioned that, because there is a lot of stuff to do after surgery. And even if you've had a revision and been here once before, it can still feel like there's a lot after surgery. So tapping back into the pillars has actually helped me tremendously in that, because I did feel overwhelmed at first coming back out of it, because I was like, shit, I haven't been here in 3.5 years. I don't remember what it was like to be a baby bariatric patient. I forgot all the things. So it really has helped. So this couldn't come at a better time for me, being 3 weeks post-op, to be digging back into the pillars.
Right. Bingo. Couldn't have said it better myself. All right, let's dive in.
Let's do it.
All right. So first and foremost, right, we always like to start each episode when we're kind of technical like this. We want to make sure we're all speaking the same language, right? We're on the same page. And this first question actually came directly from our community and our community member. So thank you so much for submitting this question. So our friend asked, I've heard us, right, talk about the 3 pillars of bariatric success and then the 4 pillars of BariNation. How many pillars are there?
Calling us out. We get it. We get it. Okay.
We know we can be confusing. The definitive answer at this very moment in 2024, because I'm not going to say things won't change in the future, but our pillars of bariatric success are movement, mindset, metabolic wellness, and community. We used to have 3, but now we know how critically important participation and active participation in community is. It absolutely is that 4th pillar. So the answer is 4, and they're movement, mindset, metabolic wellness, and community. And a way to envision this, and we kind of talked about this earlier, is, right, if you close your eyes and you think about an old Roman building, think about that stone structure with the big columns, right, supporting this massive structure. Community is the foundation of your bariatric life. It is the foundation of this building. And then movement, mindset, and metabolic wellness are the foundation that those pillars are grounded in. So we learn the pillars and we live the pillars in this foundation of community, because community is where we can actually learn what it means to live these pillars. It's the safe place that we get to practice, right? Well, those pillars are holding up this roof, and the roof is your bariatric life, but really it's just your life, because you can't separate your bariatric life from your life. The 3 of us used to, right? It was like, well, my Bari life, or it was like, oh, my Bari friends, and then my OG friends. And it's like, they're all the same. They're all the same. And if you try to keep them separate, it's just not going to work, because now you're balancing too many things. And you very kind of quickly after surgery, right, a year or 2 out, you just realize, oh my God, I can't keep separating them, because because everything that obesity touches or impacts is my life. And you just can't separate the 2. So Yeah, those are the pillars, definitively.
And I would like to just emphasize that the community is, like you said, April, it's the foundation. It's the safe space to practice as well as learn those pillars. So if you're like, okay, I learned about nutrition in Kayla Gergen's class in BariNation, now what? Or like if even if you go to your nutritionist from your surgeon's office and you get all this information, okay, cool. The safe place to practice is with your community to say, hey, I made this meal trying to follow this guideline. April might say, oh, you know what, help me reach my protein goals or my fiber goals, whatever goal you're trying to achieve. April might have a piece that you can use, or Jason, or me, or someone else in the community. It's a safe space to really practice as well as learn.
Yeah. And practicing is a critical, it's very critical in this because we don't know what we don't know. And we're so new at this, like getting in and just thinking that we're just going to grab something that somebody said and be like, oh, well, I just go ahead and incorporate that in my everyday life. Like, no, it's not going to work like that. I mean, we try, like we want to think it will, but the more you can practice those things in a safe environment, in a safe space where people can kind of be your backup, so to speak, will only help you to further enact those things, because not only will you have the repetition to be able to, from the practice to be able to do this, but you will also have people to bounce things off of, like Nat said. Like when you have somebody to bring the finished product back to and say, guys, look what I did. This is how it turned out for me. How did it turn out for you? Or I decided to put my twist on it. And then at that point, you're helping somebody else to get where you are. And where everybody, help somebody else, behind them get where they are. And that's probably the biggest and best thing about the community aspect of the pillars.
Yep. And if we really want to look at this again from like another analogy or a similar point of view, right? We all go to school to learn something that we don't know. And despite going into surgery thinking surgery is going to be the only thing that I need, it's not. We have to learn so much about the disease and nutrition and movement and what we're thinking and how our thinking impacts our actions. All of that learning, if it happens in isolation, is going to be very difficult to apply because we are all used to taking in new information, practicing it with others, and then applying it in our own life, right? It's that classic educational model. I do, we do, you do. The teacher, right, delivers the content, and that's exactly what happens like in the BariNation sport community. That's what happens in sport groups, in classes, in meetups, right? It's this teaching of bariatric life, of the skills of bariatric life, basically, right? And then when you're together with your peers, you are learning and you're talking, you're doing it together, and you get to experiment. And then you take that learning out into your life and you try it. And then you go back to your peers and you go, hey, I tried this. This is what I came up with. So it very much is a model that I think every human is used to. And if we just acknowledge before surgery or after surgery, wherever we get, that I don't know how to live as a bariatric patient. I have never done this before. And even if we have done it before, you realize I didn't know what I was doing. Right. And that fear can drive you to isolate. And what we're saying, the reason community is a pillar is because we can fight back that fear with community. We can end the isolation with community. And it's how we have all gotten to the place that we are. I know every single time the three of us go to the doctors, and so many BariNation members say this, their doctors are always like, how do you know this stuff? Or where did you learn it? And the answer is always, oh, I'm a member of BariNation and I go to classes or I go to meetups. All right, right. It's because that's where the learning occurs. Okay. Those are the pillars. I think we've got that clear, right? We're good. So the next question that people always ask is, how did you come up with them? The short answer is we talked with a lot of experts. We continue to talk with a lot of experts. And when we really looked at all of the things that we needed to do on a daily basis as a bariatric patient, we realized that instead of looking at these 50 things, let's say, and overwhelming ourselves, we could take a step back and we can go, wait a minute, this actually isn't that deep. It isn't that complicated, right? It's moving our bodies. It's thinking about what we're thinking about, mindset. It's metabolic wellness, and we'll get into that. And it's community. But when we applied the learning that we were getting on the podcast and through all these conversations with the experts, that was when we realized, yeah, no, it really doesn't have to be that complicated. And if we simplify it, maybe we'll have higher levels of success. That was really how they were born.
Yeah, I'll never forget. I think it was almost 2 years ago now. We interviewed Sam. He's one of our dear friends. He's a bariatric dietitian. Uh, he said on the podcast, it's not that deep. And ever since then, I think the three of us have all just been like, you're right. You're right. It's not that deep. It is, but it isn't. Why am I getting all this complexity, and why am I letting all of these rules or what to do's and what not to do's? Why am I letting that confuse and overwhelm me? It's not that deep. Let's just put them into these pillars and make sure every day, am I grabbing from each column today? Am I eating well? Am I moving my body? Am I challenging my mindset? Am I going into the community? And that's what matters. But really, it's not that deep.
No, people hear them and start trying to kind of overanalyze, like what you say, because it does sound like it sounds like a lot. And when you really break it down, I mean, on its that they are what they are on their face. Like it's legitimately like at face value, you take it for what it is, because it's going to look different to everybody. Movement is going to look different. Mindset is going to be different because different people work on different parts of the mindset. You may have something down that I'm struggling with, and I may have something down that you're struggling with. So none of the pillars are going to look the same for everyone, because and it's one of those things that is also another kind of talking point in safe space that you can bring up and say, well, when it comes to movement, this is where I strive, and this is where where I'm striving to get to, but this is where I'm kind of struggling a little bit, but I'm okay here. And you can kind of work through each one of the pillars in that same fashion. And, it all comes on your own timeline as well. There are people we know that would love to be in the BariNation community, but aren't ready yet. They're just not ready, and that's okay. Come. We're going to be here when you're ready, and that's the beauty of BariNation. Is when you're ready, come on, we got you. If you think you're ready and you decide you're not, and you need to come back later, that's okay too. Like there's varying levels of these things that you have to understand that are okay for you to get to in your own time.
Yep. And I appreciate you saying that, Jason, right? Because movement 1 month pre-op is going to look very different than 1 month post-op. And it was important for us when we were really thinking about what these pillars are, is that they could move and flex with you. So the pillar remains the same, but just like what Jason said, how you live that pillar is going to be different based on what stage you're at. But what connects all of us as a community and as patients are these pillars, right? It's everybody's destination is the same, right? It's learning to live the pillars and practicing those things, as often as we can, daily if preferable. But the fact that the pillar doesn't stay the same, but you flex to meet that pillar is really powerful, because again, it also brings all of us together in a community that are in totally different spaces, right? You could be just thinking about considering surgery, learning and connecting with somebody that's 20 years post-op. And yet you're talking about the same thing. You're talking about the same pillars, right? It's that language that connects and binds us. And it's the meaning behind those things. Right. It was a part of our thought process, because we know how scary we're living this with you guys. We know how scary bariatric life is. And just like what Jason said, right? He was living them hardcore in the beginning, and then forgot, whatever, it fell off. And now you're fresh out of revision and you're like, oh my God, what am I going to do? Oh, wait a minute. I know exactly what to do. It's the pillars, right? It helps you lower that temperature. It reduces your stress and anxiety, and it helps you believe until you really do believe that you can do this.
And I think it's a great thing to note as well about the community portion. I can go to a support group or a meetup and say, man, I just feel off. And that's what I'll say. I won't even know why I'm feeling off. And someone, let's say April or Jason, will go, well, how are your pillars? Or what are you moving? Or how's your food? How have you attended a support group? You know, whatever. And I can check in because the community will check in with me and say, are you moving? Are you eating in a way that helps you be metabolically well? Are you going to therapy and working on your mindset? And then if my answer to one or all of them is no, I can take a look and say, oh, okay, these are the things that have worked for me before in these pillars. Let me get back to that. And again, it's that's why my word is anchor, because it's like I could feel adrift, but I'm actually really anchored to these pillars, this anchor to bring me back.
Yep. You guys, oh, you guys know I love a good marine nautical analogy. Oh, so when you are captaining a ship and you drop that anchor, right? The pillar is that anchor that is anchoring you right to the rock, to the bedrock of the community and to your bariatric life. But when you're boating, what happens is sometimes your anchor drifts. And basically, what you do when you're on a boat is you drop your anchor and then you set, it's called the circle of trust, right? And it's literally this circle that surrounds your boat. Well, if your boat moves outside of that circle of trust, it means you've weighed anchor. Your anchor has shifted. And the pillars act as that circle of trust, right? Because as soon as you notice, like, oh, I am not moving intentionally, I am really not spending any time focusing on my mindset, or all I'm doing is saying really horrible things to myself, that the pillars almost become your anchor alarm. Because as soon as you drift outside of that circle of trust, the alarms go off. And if you can't do that yet, or you don't know how to do that yet because you've never practiced it, that's again where the community comes in. The community can become that circle of trust for you. So when you venture out of that, you're like, oh, okay, I need to do some work here. You know, and the other thing that I appreciate about the pillars is life has to remain flexible, right? We have to have room for things to happen. Things go wrong all the time. There's the plan, and then there's what actually I know. What? Yeah. No, I think in this past month, all three of us have had like complete blow ups in our personal lives. But life does require some things to be pretty rigid, but flexibility has to be built in around that rigidity. And while the pillars remain steadfast, we're not necessarily focusing on building routines that help us live the pillars. It's about building practices. And the difference really between routines and practices, and we're going to talk a ton about this year, is a routine is very rigid. Like when this happens, then I do this, right? It goes in an order. Well, normally a lot of times with us, right? When one piece of the routine gets broken, you don't do the rest of the routine. Everything gets thrown off and it becomes an excuse to like not do it. Like, oh my God, that didn't go the way I thought it would. I just can't do it, right? So now your routine's off. But if you're building a practice of moving your body intentionally every day, if you're building a practice of taking your vitamins, you're building in flexibility, because what you're saying is, today I'm going to take my vitamins. I don't know when that's going to be, right? But I know I'm just going to do it. And it offers a lot of freedom when you are really trying to build these practices and to do something new every single day, because we are not falling back into old habits. We are learning how to live a completely new life. And that's a big difference. So when we're beating ourselves up over, oh man, I'm just falling back to my old ways. No. You have lived that way for decades. So it's not that you're falling back into anything. You are continuing to live the way you've always lived. You are attempting to live a new life. You're attempting to do things a new way. Yeah, well, no wonder there's friction there. Change is hard. Change is really difficult. And those pillars can really serve as that.
Yeah. It is hard. There's a lot to take in on that and digest, but at the same time, it, we all, a lot of us, I know myself included, is, change is scary for us because we're comfortable where we are. And really, that's, we talk about this all the time. Like, that's where the work is, in the uncomfortability. You got to get comfortable being uncomfortable because you can't change sitting still. Like, you got to be able to move to change. You got to do the things. And to get where you want to be, there's going to have to be a lot of uncomfortable conversations, uncomfortable feelings while you're processing things, doing the head work, doing the mental stuff. Sucks. But, on the other side of it, lies a life that we only dreamed that we could have.
And I
Yep.
think I was listening to you just now, Jason, and I think where that, yes, it is scary to change and to adapt, to take on these pillars. It is also true that it can bring you more peace and more goodness.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Yep. It is a place of comfort, and it is a place of, yeah, of just peace, right? Knowing like, nope, this is what it is. And this is what I can do. Yeah. Awesome. So, what do each one of these pillars actually mean, right? So, what does movement mean? What does mindset mean? What does metabolic wellness mean? And what does community mean? So, Jason, let's kind of start with you. What does movement mean to you? What is the movement pillar all about?
Movement is anything you can do that's outside of your normal course of movement. If you intentionally get up and say, I'm going to walk, when we're working from home, the most we did is walk to the kitchen, maybe to the bathroom, maybe to what. So, like when I was working from home all the time, while I was heating up food or while I was getting water, while I was doing those things, you walk in place, you take extra steps, you do the things that you can do to intentionally move your body aside from what you would normally do. And that's your movement. It doesn't mean you have to run a half marathon. It doesn't mean you have to do 100 push-ups. It doesn't mean you have to go to the gym for 2 hours a day. You can get in any type of movement that's going to benefit you in the space that you have and the time that you have available, and it will still benefit you better than not moving at all.
Bingo. Not what does it mean to you?
Exactly what Jason said. I think the key word for me is intentionality.
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna I'll use Tuesday, January 2nd as an example because I was like, you know what? I'm gonna intentionally move my body at the gym because this is the goal for me is to start new practices to go to the gym. I'm gonna go to the gym and I'm gonna do my routine, my gym routine. Got there, had a POTS episode, dizzy, heart racing, couldn't do it. Couldn't finish what I had started. That was the most frustrating thing I think I've ever experienced. Getting all the way, if you guys don't know, I live in the middle of nowhere, so even getting to the gym is like 25 minutes. So to get hype myself up to get up, put on my clothes, go to the gym. I did 10 minutes of cardio and I decided I'm gonna stretch because stretching is still movement and it's not
Mm-hmm.
gonna spike anything. It's not going to hurt me physically and it's intentional movement. And I think that is just the key word when it comes to movement for me and in general,
Yep.
being
Yeah.
intentional about it.
Yes. And just like what you both said, right, Jason, it's above and beyond what you do every day, right? And it's this intentionality of I'm going to move my body in a different way or in a similar way. I'm going to walk, but I'm going to walk intentionally a little bit faster and I'm going to do it for 5 minutes or 10 minutes, right? The great thing about movement is it's not time bound, it's not activity bound. It is simply bound by your intention to move in a different way, right? Each and every day. The other great thing about movement and why we purposely chose the word movement is exercise or workout can have a negative connotation for a lot of us, right? Like that was something we used as punishment. We didn't enjoy it, right? But movement is what we are feeling called to do. Movement is what like our body is feeling joyful about when it comes to it. And movement is anything that meets you where you are at. So if you're right sitting or listening, watching this podcast, and you're like, oh yeah, but I just have so many physical limitations, right? Or I can't walk, or I am not very balanced, or I've hurt my knee, or I've hurt my arm, or whatever it is. We can all move intentionally where we are at that day. Right. So let's say that you're having a very difficult time walking. There are 10 billion chair workouts on YouTube for free that you can watch that require no weights. Right. So accessing movement with limited mobility is still movement. And this pillar helps us avoid that all or nothing thinking because, right, movement is something that each and every one of us can do. And it is about where you are at right now, not where you want to go or not where you were before surgery, right? It's intentional movement every day in a way that is right for you.
And it can be a celebration of like, I can do an arm workout. Whoa, okay, that's pretty rad. Or
Mm-hmm.
I can walk on the treadmill at like a 4 incline for 10 minutes. Whoa, that's pretty cool. Like it's also about experimenting and seeing what feels good and what helps you feel good. And I think that was a big mindset. I mean, I know we're going to talk about mindset, but that was a big mindset shift for me was to claim it as movement and not something else to punish or whatever.
Yep. Dude, I love that how you said that. Claim it. Yeah, we get to
Yeah.
claim movement as something joyful and exciting and positive instead of what it was maybe before surgery. Yeah.
Yeah. It doesn't
Yeah.
happen to me. I don't have to do it. I'm claiming that shit. I
Mm-hmm.
get to do an arm workout today. I get to stretch my body today. And that's taken me a long time to get to, but I just starting to say like I'm claiming it. I'm doing it because I want to, not because someone told me I should.
Boom. Look at that
Um,
mindset growth. Woo!
I mean, you know.
Amazing. This is this is the one thing that I'm always like, oh my God, when it comes to the pillars, they're so interconnected. Like sometimes you can't live just one pillar because mindset is like with I swear to God, mindset is almost it's where everything begins. And right, because our mindset is it's what we think, and our thoughts impact our behaviors, and our behaviors impact our actions. But everything really begins with the stories, the words, the things that we are telling ourselves in our head. That is mindset, right? Mindset are these things. It's the voices, it's the words, it's all of that that generate up here. Well, what we think directly impacts what we do. But mindset is like the biggest nut to crack when it comes to like the bariatric life. So, Jason, what do you think of when you hear the pillar, the word mindset?
Mindset is like that Michael Myers meme where he's peeping around the bushes. Like it's always there, whether you see it or not. Like he's always just chilling right there, peeking out, like, sup. Because every time you think you're golden, like you got it, nah, you're gonna peek around and be like, sup, how's it going? Because that's exactly what happens. Like you get one part down and you're like, cool, this is dope, I got this. And then it's like, no, you don't. And you just get smacked. You're just like, oh, okay, cool. I thought it did. Never mind. Like it's ever evolving is what it feels like to me because it's just something that's like you're going to always have to work at because intrusive thoughts, things like things like negative things and stuff like that can always creep back in. Or you're going to have to reframe the way you look at something or think about something, like Nat said with movement, or like people do with tracking, or like with people do with like I did with tracking in the scale. You have to reframe it as data points, not just as, oh, I'm going to get on the scale and it's going to affect how the rest of my day goes. Like you can't do, like you have to reframe it as a data point, write it down, and leave it where it is. Like that was the biggest thing for me is once I started writing it down, I left that shit on the page and kept it moving. I don't have to remember what it said because I can go back and read it on the page. I don't need it in my head all day or me thinking, oh damn, now I'm up a pound or I'm up 2 pounds or I'm up 5 pounds. It's on the page. I'll figure it out tomorrow. Like I don't look at it the way I did anymore. And those are just some of the things when mindset, like when people think, oh, the mindset part, all this stuff is so hard. It is hard, but it's something that you're going to have, you get to do that work, and you have the ability to do that work now because that fog is gone. Like you're using more of your brain capacity than you ever have been able to do or have been able to do for a long time. So this is the time to really dig in and do that work sooner rather than later, so that, when you can and do eat and want to eat more, you're making better choices than you would if if you wait to do the work until later on.
That analogy has me cracking up, but it is so true, right? Because every time you think like, oh yeah, no, I'm getting this all or nothing mindset down, something in your life happens and you're like, oh my God. And it's literally all or nothing, just peeking around the bush. Oh, I see you. And it's like, God damn it.
So,
How am I
hey
not?
girl,
Yeah.
hey girl.
Or I love it when somebody in the community, where we'll be in a group or a class or whatever, and I'll say something, and literally, I mean, within 2 seconds, somebody pipes up, isn't that all or, and I'm like, God, yes, it's all or nothing. I didn't even think about that. Yeah, Mike Myers. Oh, hey, stop,
You're like,
girl.
maybe.
Yeah,
So,
maybe. Yeah, yeah. So, I mean, dear Lord. Nat, what about you? What's mindset to you?
I think for me it's about creating or finding these new mindset shifts so that I feel more freedom. Because I do suffer from depression, anxiety, ADHD. My brain is a little twisted, and sometimes I can get trapped. It's like labyrinth. Like I just get trapped sometimes. And so for me, working on my mindset allows me to navigate these things, these labyrinths, these mazes, a little bit quicker or a little bit kinder to myself, or navigating situations just a little bit easier. And I remember, and I think it was 2022, I just said I needed to start utilize. I told Jason in April, I need to start utilizing BariNation because I'm stuck. Like I don't know how to get out of this. And I started attending weekly support groups. I did not miss one Laura Grabo support group for about 18 months. I went every single week. And I worked with Rodolfo, another one of our experts. I did not miss a week. And yes, it is like the Michael Myers meme where there's some times where I get to the end of that a block in my little maze and I'm like, fuck, God damn it. I hit one. Like I thought I was doing so well. And you just that's when you turn to the community and you go, okay, I'm stuck, or I go to my therapist and I say I'm stuck and I can figure it out. But it really does, I kind of visualize it like a labyrinth of like I'm trying to navigate this new life that I've created for myself, and you are going to get stuck. That is inevitable. But it's for me, it's my mindset and how can I problem solve? How can I move forward and get out and navigate the labyrinth, so to
Yep,
speak. That's what mindset is for me.
I love it. Mindset for me is very similar to both of you. And I just think about it as mindset is what turns the light from red to green quicker. Mindset is what makes the speed bumps not so huge, right? Because I'm still all of that stuff is on the road. There is no avoiding it. But my mindset is either going to keep me stuck, keep me paused, throw me into a wall, right? It's going to make those speed bumps bigger. But if I am equipping myself with the right thoughts about what I encounter, I'm going to move through those encounters just quicker. And I'm all about that. I'm all about efficiency. And my mindset can really help me do that. And I always think about mindset is like almost like three things. Mindset is just acknowledging what you are thinking and what you're saying to yourself, right? That's like the first step in recognizing it. Then the second thing, or the second question I always ask is this helpful? Right? Is this mindset actually helping me accomplish anything or do anything? And if it's not, what can I do to change it? And just being aware of those two things helps me access the more helpful mindsets than the less helpful ones. And exactly what you guys said. Every day I'm encountering a new situation where I realize I'm applying an older mindset. So I'm doing that work. But because I'm practicing the work in community, I get to try it and then go back and be like, yo, this happened today. And everybody can be like, oh my God, no way. Right. Or they're sharing in that learning, or they're helping me see where I could improve or make tweaks to that mindset as we go. So, this entire bariatric journey, we are the only ones that can do this work. We're the only ones that can do it. But when we do it with the support and company of friends, of peers who understand what's happening, that's like the magic fairy dust, right? That's the secret ingredient to your sauce. And it's how you can really accelerate all of this growth and all of this learning that you're doing along the way. Metabolic wellness. What the heck is it? If you guys have not listened, we have 2 podcast episodes that are deep in the repository with Dr. Ariel Ortiz. And he was the first expert that we ever heard speak the word metabolic wellness. And we literally, I mean, mind's blown. And then immediately we recorded like 2 days later with him because we were like, we need to understand what this is. So we're going to explain to you what metabolic wellness is to us. Caveat, we are not doctors, we are not nurses, we are not medical professionals, but this is what we understand metabolic wellness to mean in our own bariatric experience. Okay, so let me take you on a little adventure here. Obesity is a disease. The disease impacts our metabolism. Metabolism is how we utilize the energy that we're taking in through what we're consuming, right? So disease impacts metabolism. Metabolism impacts how we use this energy. Well, metabolic diseases, so diseases that are impacted by metabolism, can be the trigger point from obesity. To be metabolically well is kind of what the medical community deems like you're a healthy individual. So if you're metabolically well, you don't have high blood pressure, you don't have high cholesterol, you have a healthy weight, you have a healthy waistline, you're not insulin resistant, you're not diabetic, right? There's kind of these big things that are out there that indicate metabolic disease, and most of them are triggered by or caused by obesity. So to be metabolically well, you wouldn't have any of those indicators. And most of the definitions that we've encountered say you don't have any of those indicators without medication. That's kind of the big definition. And we talked about this before we even hit record, right? We have a caveat to that. But the goal is to be metabolically well after bariatric surgery. And why we love this term, this idea so much, is because our weight is not the only indicator of health. And many of us are going to be in the overweight or even the obese category for the rest of our lives after surgery. But it doesn't necessarily mean we are not metabolically well, right? Our weight doesn't necessarily mean that it doesn't mean that we are not healthy. Weight is a single indicator, and it's a part of this metabolic picture, right? So you could be overweight, but your visceral fat could be extremely low, right? You could be overweight, but you could have massive amounts of muscle or very high bone density, right? So all of that is factored into your weight. So when we learned about metabolic wellness, it was literally like we were released from this like deep, dark dungeon of BMI and weight. And we were going, I'm sorry, what? This isn't about weight. This is actually about all of the other things that matter just as much, if not more than weight. And we can focus on all of these things and not, I mean, it was just like, what? So when we learned that, we were like, holy shit, okay, this absolutely is a pillar, because it allowed us to step away from the scale. It allowed us to give less, power to the scale, and allowed us to really put our focus on the things that mattered. And that was to be metabolically well, to know and to focus on blood pressure and cholesterol and insulin resistance, right? All this other kind of stuff. Because that truly is the best picture of overall human health, not just weight. So there's my very brief, I stayed at a Holiday Inn last night. But again, we learned all of this because we've interviewed so many experts and we talk about it all the time when we're in BariNation classes. So that's a very high level view. So Jason, when you hear metabolic wellness, what do you think?
One of the first things that we talked about whenever that came about was the fact that it means, going and getting your labs done and them coming back in and saying that you have normal labs. And we had never heard that as pre-op. And for myself, I know that my labs are always going to look a little different than everybody else's, because that's kind of one of the caveats we were talking about. Like according to the BMI, I'm supposed to be like 180 pounds at 6'4" to be not obese. I'm never gonna get there ever. And I know that. And I'm okay with that. I've made peace with that. I'm golden with that. Because I would look really sick if I weighed 185 pounds at 6'4". I would look really bad. I also know that there are some genetic conditions I have, high blood pressure being one of them, thyroid disease being another, that I will never be off of those medications. So my mother was, 5'9" and weighed 114 pounds until the day she passed away, and she was on blood pressure medication. Her blood pressure was super high. So I know that I'm just never going to not, it runs on both sides of my family as far back as you want to map it. So I know that I'm going to have that medication forever, as well as my thyroid medication. So the best I can do is keep all of those things as in check as I can, and make sure that the other labs, my A1Cs, my cholesterol, my triglycerides, all those things are in check, and that those are, within the normal ranges, because that's the best that I can do. That doesn't make me a horrible person. That doesn't make me a bad patient. It just means I have some, some genetic difficulties, I will say, that keep
Mm-hmm.
me from being in the normal range without the medication.
Yep. And the power of metabolic wellness is that it puts the onus, it puts a responsibility on us on several different fronts. It means we need to be engaged with our primary care provider. We need to be having our labs checked. We have to be cognizant and aware of what we are eating, because what we eat, what we ingest impacts these metabolic markers. So it allowed us to put the focus on food where it really belongs. And that is its nutritional power, the value of it as kind of medicine. It allows us to think about what we're eating and to approach bariatric eating in a way that's almost separate from the scale. Like, yes, okay, calories in, great. But what is this actually doing for all of these other metabolic issues that I need to be aware of if I want to be a healthy person? It was a big shift. Nat, what about you?
Very similar to Jason. I have been insulin resistant my whole life, from birth. Uh, it did get to the point where I had the black rings around my neck. So that was obviously like bariatric surgery, metabolic surgery really helped with that. But I'm still insulin resistant. I have a syndrome that affects my heart rate. Um, and I'm autoimmune. So there are things, all of these factors, just like what Jason said, I know I'm going to be battling my whole life. That being said, this term, like you started to say, April, really gave me the freedom to experiment and say, what foods make me feel well? What foods don't make me feel well? And to really take note of those things, especially with my new diagnosis with POTS. It's like I'm noticing now, because I've practiced metabolic wellness and I've practiced being in tune with my body that much more. I know when I'm eating something, almost immediately my body goes, or it really hates me. It's like one or the other. It's never in between. Or it really likes it and I feel fine and I can go about my day. But I notice when I don't feel well. And I can say, oh, okay, I don't feel well when I eat red meat, or I don't feel well when I eat a ton of processed carbs, potato chips, or whatever. I do feel really well when I eat seafood and when I eat really dense leafy greens or broccoli or like whatever it may be. I can take, like you said, that ownership, and it gives me more permission in a way to be like, no, I don't really want to eat that if I'm at a function or something along those lines. And it also puts it back on me where if I choose to eat it anyway and I feel like shit, maybe you shouldn't have eaten that. Not, I don't like the shouldn't, Sarah, don't come for me, but like maybe that wasn't the best choice for you. You know, let's reflect and understand why you're feeling like shit right now.
Yes.
And that gives me more power, and it's empowering to I love the metabolic wellness pillar.
Mm. Yep. And again, right, if you guys are noticing, it connects back to mindset, right? What am I thinking about the foods that I'm eating? Right? Just like what you said, Nat, is this going to help me feel well, or is this going to help me feel not well? It also comes back to what am I thinking about these foods? Or am I villainizing this food, or am I making this food out to be something worse than what it actually is? Metabolic wellness and mindset very much go hand in hand. And right when we practice metabolic wellness, what we're really saying is we are thinking about the foods that we're eating, right? Because eating slow, chewing 20 times helps our nutrition. Nutrition is a part of metabolic wellness. Are we getting in our water? Water is a part of metabolic wellness, right? We need to be well hydrated if we want to avoid, gallstones and all these other things that can happen. So all of kind of those things that you think and that we know we have to do as bariatric patients do when it comes to eating fit into this metabolic wellness pillar, which is again what makes the pillars so powerful, right? Movement is movement is movement, right? There's you're going to move a certain way. When it comes to mindset, there's a lot of different things that we're thinking up here. And when it comes to metabolic wellness, there's a ton of ways that we can actually live that pillar. It can be as simple as eating slow, stopping when we're full, learning to listen to our hunger cues, right? It's also making sure that we're taking our medication and our vitamins every single day, making sure that we're eating whole grains, some unprocessed foods, right? Like it's really all encompassing, making those appointments, getting the labs done, having the conversations with our doctors. All of that is metabolic wellness. So on the days that we just think like, I don't want a bariatric anymore. I can't do this. Like I'm over it. I just can't. We can always look to the pillars and go, okay, can I do one thing? Yes, you can. You can sip water, right? You can connect in community. You can take your vitamins. You can go walk for 5 minutes, right? You can do these little things that help you live the pillars. And when you realize that and you really start to go like, oh, it helps you calm down. It helps you realize I can do this. I absolutely can do this. Because maybe a lot of these pillars, the things that go into the pillars, you were already doing before surgery. Cool. Keep doing those. Keep doing exactly what you're doing, right? Add in these other things to kind of create this well-rounded, holistic, bariatric life. And then community, right? Our last pillar is community. And I think for us, it just means you are connected and you are participating with peers as often as is appropriate for you, as often as you can. And we talk about this often in the BariNation membership community. Participation can look different every single day. Maybe some days all you need to do or all you want to do is just scan that share here feed and you want to see what people are posting and you want to comment. Maybe participation is you're watching one of the thousands of videos in the on-demand video library. Maybe participation is actually going to a support group or a class or a meetup, but not saying anything. I don't want my camera on. I just want to be here and listen. And maybe participation is you're asking a question, you're offering advice, you're active in the chat, right? But it is just connecting with a peer. That's the beginning of community. Did I miss anything? I mean, Jason, Nat, what do you guys think?
No, I mean, it's kind of like what Nat alluded to earlier. We built, this thing with our amazing community, and then we're working behind the scenes doing all the things, and we were leading meetups and doing things, and then we didn't realize that how much we needed to utilize the support itself for us to be, have the journey that we wanted. It's not even about having a successful journey. It's about getting the most out of the journey that you can. And it wasn't until then that we realized that, kind of what we had built. Like we had, like, everybody has in their mind's eye what it is, but it's not until you get in there and actually attend some of these support groups and look at some of the feeds and look at some of the things that were shared that you really realize how amazing it is to have that at your disposal every single day. There's always somebody you can reach out to. There's always a group you can go to. There's always something coming that you can look forward to because you know that your people are going to be there, because you gain this camaraderie with the people that are other members, and you look forward to seeing those people every single day. Like when you go to groups, they're going to be there, and you're going to get to talk about how your week went, or they may have something coming up that you're excited to hear about how it went. And those are things that are really awesome that you get to do, and it really is something that has completely turned my mindset of the community aspect of things around.
Yeah, I think for me, I was leading the pre-op and newly post-op group last night, and it was a heavy one. We talked about some pretty heavy topics, which is more than welcome in BariNation. The good and the tough are welcome. And someone made a really good point that has stuck with me, and they said, bariatric surgery, bariatric life is the baseline, right? In BariNation. That is the one thing that we all have in common. And then you get to go to these groups or like scrolling the feed and all of this. And then you get into the niches. I love to walk every day. I have a dog. I live in the Pacific Northwest. Well, guess what? I've met people who have had bariatric surgery and also have a dog, or also live in the Pacific Northwest, also love to be outdoors and walk. And it's an incredible way to baseline. I know going into this, everyone is going to have this similar goals, similar lifestyle of bariatrics in mind. And then it's really freaking awesome to meet the people, just that little niche sub, like underneath that big umbrella. And I think that's what community has really become for me, is like, yeah, I'm a bariatric patient. I know all these people, but I do have my sub communities, my people that I go to, and I know I can talk about certain things, whether they're bariatric or just life related. Books. I mean, I talk to April and our friend Whitney about books all the time. I'm like, have you read this book or that book or whatever? And it just gives you that space to meet people that are not only bariatric patients, but that also have the similar interests or similar life paths or what have you. And that was the thing that clicked for me when, like Jason said, we started really utilizing the community that we had built was, oh no, it goes so much deeper than bariatrics.
Yep. Right. The community is really where I learned how to mash my two lives. And if you're listening, I'm doing air quotes together. Right. It was like, oh no, I got my bariatric life, but then I just have my life. And it was like, oh, wait a minute. Nope. No, like I'm not two trees growing out of two different trunks here. Like, okay. And it was in the community that I realized that it was where I learned that no, these two will come together. And that bringing together was I just feel very whole now as a person. I don't feel like I'm just a bariatric patient. I don't feel like I'm just like this outcast or no, I am a complete person. And while I'm living my pillars and I'm working on my bariatric life, that means I'm working on me, my life, because the two cannot be separated, right? I have the disease of obesity. It's never going away. I'm going to need to treat it for the rest of my life. But to learn that, nope, I'm a whole person and it's okay that I've got this disease. And then to connect with others who who are already doing it, it is where I found the power, the fuel to actually continue to do the work of bariatric surgery. I don't know about you guys, but I thought I was going to have surgery and it was all going to be great and everything was done. I wasn't going to have to do anything ever again. Yeah. Yeah. Nah. Don't work that way. Don't work that way. All right, friends. Well, before we get to our very last question, I just want to let you guys know in our bonus episode, we got some phenomenal things that we're going to talk about that came straight from the BariNation membership community and our Patreon supporters. So in our bonus podcast episode today, we're going to talk about metabolic wellness, right? What does it mean in our personal day-to-day lives, and what does it look like when we practice it? Somebody's been sick for a very long time and they're finding it difficult to get inspired to move. We're going to talk about that. This question came from a pre-op member. Movement has always been a struggle and my current weight limits me physically. This is a question we get all the time, right? My body hurts and my heart rate spikes, but I think it really just comes to this person's motivation. How do we stay motivated when facing real life limitations, right? I mean, that's movement and mindset pillar right there, all in one. Fatigue remains an issue for me. How can I balance work and finding the energy to exercise and live the other pillars? Great, great, great topic. And then, of course, just how do we live the pillars every single day in our lives? We're really going to dive into that. But I think a great way to kind of wrap up this conversation would be maybe just to quickly share with our friends, with our listeners, and with our watchers, how have we lived our pillars today? So what pillars have you lived and how have you lived them? Jason, you want to kick us off? You're muted. Jason, you're muted.
Love it. That's my favorite. So being back in the office 4 days a week now, I have started when I pack my lunch and meal prep and all my things, I've specifically put it in, I leave every single bit of it in the refrigerator. So I have to get up every couple of hours and go and move because our fridge is not close. Our new building is very large, so we have to walk everywhere to do all the things. So between going and getting those things and going to the bathroom a little further away from the one that's closer to where I'm at, it just gets me up enough to stretch and move around a little bit more than I would normally do because I used to just not. Like if I'm home, I don't get up until it's time to get whatever I need to get. 10 steps to the kitchen, 10 steps back to the desk, like all good. And so as far as movement goes, that's the biggest thing for me. Mindset was a big one today because yesterday was a really, really hard day. I had a lot of things happen yesterday between work and personal life and home life and just conversations I was having that were hard. I just had a very, very mentally taxing day. And I had to go to the store and get some stuff. And I talked myself out of all of the things I wanted to get that were horrible for me. I did not do any of it because I went to Costco and Costco's got bomb ass pizza that was sitting right there staring at me. Y'all know I'm a pizza junkie and I did not do it, even though I really, really wanted to. So, but I came home and just kind of laid down resting and was just like, tomorrow won't be like today. So when I got up today, I went into work knowing that some of the stuff from yesterday was still on my mind. But when I got there, I was able to reframe the way I viewed all of it. And today was a much better day, much more positive day. I felt better. The day was better. I came home with more energy and cleaned up a little bit before we came in here to do this. So like it was night and day, the difference between the two, because all I wanted to do when I came home yesterday was lay down and go to bed. I just wanted yesterday to be over with. But, it just came to one of those times where I knew I couldn't let today be like yesterday, because 2 days in a row like that would have led to a very bad place. And I didn't want that for me. So I was able to kind of, as Laura says, catch it, check it, change it, and reframed how I was going to attack today. And it was way better than I could have imagined. So I was glad there. And, metabolic wellness was me not eating the things that I wanted to eat that would have thrown all of that out of whack. So those are how I lived those. And then community is, meeting with you guys. You guys will always be my foundation for community, regardless of what, everything else we build and continue to grow, because you guys started it for me. So that to me is always going to be amazing and always going to be a bright spot in any day that I have. So.
Well, and I would also add, I know you've taken your medication today and you'll continue to take your medication. You've been sipping water this whole time. You're eating small bites. You're eating slowly. You're doing a lot of you are doing a lot for that metabolic wellness pillar.
Yes.
Yeah. Yep. Nice. Nice. Nat, how about you?
Oh man, today's been a hard day for me. For some reason, well, I woke up to snow and it was just kind of like nah, I just didn't want to deal with it today. It was beautiful, but I was also just like, I don't know. So I kind of woke up on the wrong side of the bed, if you will. But mindset wise, I talked to some folks that I knew would kind of pull me out of that, which is also community. But um, as far as movement and mindset goes, or movement and metabolic wellness, I metabolic wellness wise, I've really been working on tracking again because I'm like, something is not adding up, something's off. I haven't felt great. I mean, the holidays and then traveling before that, it's just I'm really off on my metabolic wellness. I even talked to April earlier. I was like, "Have you eaten? I need to eat." We need to do this is a team effort here. But yeah, so metabolic wellness, making sure that I'm getting enough protein, tracking, and just making sure I'm focused on some whole foods. I've taken my meds, my vitamins, drinking water. So not doing as I have been in the past few weeks. As far as movement goes, today is a rest day for me, but I will probably make some time for some intentional stretching or something like that. With my POTS, I can't do like an everyday thing because then I will just wipe out and crash for like 3 or 4 days. I'm learning. So, learning how to balance that. But movement is still top of my priority list. I want to be active and intentional with my movement. So some kind of stretching of some sort. Um, yeah, mindset, community, those were kind of all in one today.
Yep. Rad. Well, movement. I have not done intentional movement yet, but it's on my calendar for as soon as we're done recording this episode. So I will get in my intentional movement on one of my Peloton machines. For my mindset, big day coming up for me tomorrow. I'm moving through a lot of grief right now, a lot of grief on every front, and I am allowing those waves to hit me. I am crying publicly. Yeah. Yeah. I know. What? But my mindset is I'm giving myself a lot of space and grace around all of the grief that I'm feeling right now. And I'm having honest conversations with people and taking some time off to move through this grief. Metabolic wellness, taking my vitamins, had almost one of these done, which is good. Oh, and tea. Oh, yeah. No, I'm actually well hydrated today. And thank you, Nat. I've had 2 complete meals today that are protein packed. I ate them slowly. I know. I'm like, I'm doing the thing. And my community today was connected with our BariNation leadership team. I didn't go to anything in the community today. I did go to something yesterday or 2 days ago. Oh my God, I went to Laura Graybo's lunch group. Absolutely amazing. Oh, and yesterday I went to the decluttering challenge that Spring is hosting. Oh my God. That was like, oh, it was just what I needed. It was just what I needed. So that was really great. So, and of course, yeah, this conversation, I'm absolutely counting as my community today. So hopefully that gives you guys some ideas about how we live our pillars every day. And hopefully you also heard us pivoting away from routines and very heavily leaning into practices. giving ourselves the space and grace to know that we have all day to live our pillars, not within a specific time. And that when lifes, we pause and we pivot and we look for ways to really lean in or lean on those pillars. Because one of the best things I ever heard was sometimes those walls, we feel like we hit a wall. Sometimes the walls are placed there for us to lean upon or to sit upon and to take a rest. And the pillars can be that for us, right? When we are feeling burnt out, when the bariatric burnout is real, we can lean on those pillars and rest a little bit and just clear away the noise, clear away the clutter, right? Clear away the things, the fluff that doesn't really matter. And the pillars help us just get very clear and focused on exactly what it is we need to do. All right, my friends. Awesome conversation as always. It was nice to revisit these. We talk about them all the time. So when this podcast topic came up, a couple of people asked about it and it was like, oh, wait, but it's us talking about it all the time. It's not us talking outside. Yes. So yeah, it feels good to refresh and to revisit what we know to be true. So thank you for listening or watching, however you choose to do so. I will just say, if you guys found this episode valuable, please do one of three things. Either pause and go rate this podcast, leave a review for us, become a supporter of the podcast, become a Patreon supporter. For $5 a month, you can help us produce this show, and your support means that you got something valuable out of this conversation. So it means a heck of a lot to us. The third thing you can do is share this episode with somebody who you think needs to hear it or listen to it. Either share the audio link, share the YouTube link, let people know that this conversation is out there for them. Those are three awesome ways that you can help support us. Let us know that this content is valuable for you, and just help grow BariNation far and wide. We'd absolutely love that. So thanks in advance for doing that for us. Jason, my friend, you want to take us out?
Yes, ma'am. To the community, as April said, we appreciate all that you've done so far. The liking and sharing, subscribing and rating. Continuing to do so, as she asked, is only going to help other people who may need it, because they are out there. They don't know we're here. They need the help just like you did, just like we did. So, sharing it with them helps them get to where we are, now. So let's do that and help one another. And just remember, at the end of the day, you've got this, we've got you, and we'll see you next time.
Awesome. Bye, friends.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.